It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
I mean, one of the major highlights of this week's stories and news was the news about IBB admitting that he annulled the 1993 elections in the book that he actually presented to the public in Abuja. This is almost 32 years, or if not 32 years ago, and it took him that long to finally come out publicly to state that he thwarted the will of the people. You know, I really don't know. I mean, I wish just put it down with a background. I mean, we just tell a little bit of the story, then we can talk about other things. Nigeria's former military president Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida says he regretted the annulment of June 12th, 1993 presidential election 32 years ago after the event. Mr. Babangida also blamed Sani Abacha and other military officers for annulling the election. Mr. Babangida states this in his autobiography, A Journey in Service, which was presented to the public on Thursday. The book chronicles Mr. Babangida's experiences, decisions, and challenges in national service. In the 420-page memoir, the former military ruler acknowledged that the 1993 election was credible, free, and fair, and was won by candidates of the Social Democratic Party, Moshood Abiola. The retired Army General took responsibility for cancelling the exercise in which Mr. Abiola defeated the late Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention, NRC. Mr. Babangida, who officially announced the annulment of the election in the national broadcast on the 24th of June 1993, said he is now convinced that Mr. Abiola won the election. He's now convinced. So it took him 32 years to be convinced that Abiola won that election, even after all of the whole back and forth. However, in other parts of the memoir, Mr. Babangida said military officers led by Sani Abacha, his chief of staff, or chief of defense staff, who later became military head of state, annulled the June 12 elections without his permission. Nevertheless, the retired Army General, took responsibility for cancelling the exercise. I needed to watch this particular video, all right? It's video of him announcing the annulment of the 1993 elections, because I wonder why is he blaming Abacha? Why? 2 months after the June 12 annulments, Mr. Babangida stepped down as military president in August 1993 and installed the interim government led by Ernest Shonekan. Mr. Abacha toppled the government in November 1993. I think he should also take responsibility for some other things, because it's not just about this. Because after that annulment, there were a lot of things that happened that led to the almost decimation of that family. I'm talking about the MKO family. I mean, look at what happened to him. Look at how he died. Look at his family. Just look at everything that happened. You know, it pains me to hear these kinds of stories. Now, I just need you to watch this video where he was acknowledged, and then we'll be back afterwards.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
All matters relating to the election should have gone to the tribunal set up by law for such cases, and should only have been initiated by persons or bodies that had genuine interest in the election. Instead, we are being told that the judiciary behaved so badly that I, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, should be penalized for his conduct. It is incredible.
See, I still don't get what he's trying to do with this particular memoir or autobiography, as the case may be. Telling us what we know already. What does it do? Does it bring back memories? Does it heal the wounds? I mean, I don't know if he knows the extent of the damage that he did to Nigerians. I mean, it was not just even about the family or the life of MKO Abiola at the time. We're talking about millions of Nigerians whose will were thwarted. at the ballot box. That's the very first time you could say that Nigeria had a proper election that was organized by Professor Humphrey Nwosu, who's passed on, not quite long ago. And you could tell that it was unanimous. In the north, the west, the south, the east, just about every part of the country voted for MKO Abiola to take over the mantle of leadership. And only for the head of state at the time, Babangida, to annul that election. I obtained some results, though. I don't know. I obtained some results of that particular election, the result of that particular elections. And I'll pull it out for you to watch them too. The results of the 1993 presidential election has detailed Abibu's book. Abuja at the FCT, Tofa scored 18,313, Abiola scores 19,668. Abia, Tofa scored 151,226, Abiola scored 105,273. In Plateau, Tofa scored 259,394, Abiola scored 417,565. Rivers, Tofa scored 640,973, Abiola scored 370,578. In Sokoto, Tofa scores 372,250, Abiola scores 97,726. In Taraba, Tofa scores 64,001, Abiola scored 3, Abiola scored 370,578. In Sokoto, Tofa scores 372,250, Abiola scores 97,726. In Taraba, Tofa scored 64,001, Abiola scored 101,887. Yobe, Tofa scored 64,061, Abiola scored 11,887. In Ogun, Tofa scored 59,246, Abiola scored 25,725. In Ondo, Tofa scored 62,994, Abiola scored 883,024. Oshun, Tofa scored 72,068, Abiola scores 365,266. In Oyo, Tofa scored 105,788, Abiola scored 536,011. In Kogi, Tofa scored 265,372, Abiola scored 222,760. In Kwara, Tofa scored 80,209, Abiola scored 272,270. In Lagos, Tofa scored 149,432, Abiola scored 883,865. In Niger, Tofa scored 221,437, Abiola scored 136,350. In Edo, Tofa scored 103,572, Abiola scored 205,407. In Enugu, Tofa scored 284,050, Abiola scored 263,101. In Imo, Tofa scored 195,836, Abiola scored 159,350. In Jigawa, Tofa scored 89,836, Abiola scored 138,552. So let me just stop there. It was a very good election. I mean, very fantastic election. You could say that Tofa won in some states, Abiola won in some states, but overall, Abiola beat him hands down. There was no, trying to say, okay, is it true that he took this side, he didn't take the side? There's a way there was a manipulation, because again, the military government at that time actually supported Tofa. You can imagine a military government at the time supporting a candidate that went on to lose an election. They tried to intimidate Humphrey Nwosu, but Humphrey refused. There was no way in the world that Humphrey would have even accepted whatever promises that they gave him. They told him to change the result, and he refused because it was pump and plain that what happened in the field was what was plain. I don't know whether we have those kinds of people in the person of Humphrey Nwosu today in our electoral process. I really don't know. I think the only person you can start to think around that lines is that woman in Abia State in the last election, that's, was inundated with so many calls about, changing the results, allegedly. But of course, she turned it down and then pronounced Alex Otti the winner of that election. But having said that, I really don't know what IBB was thinking along the lines of releasing this, because again, it just reminds us of how devastating it was as a military ruler at the time. Young, vibrant. If you look at him, if you know that he was young at the time, very young man. Taking decisions. And during that time, in fact, if you look at the ages of the military people at the time, IBB, Tofa, those people at that time, you see that their ages between 28 and maybe 42. Young people, very young people then. There's nothing like what we're seeing today. We had Obasanjo, who was way above 70. We had Goodluck Jonathan, who was way into his 50s. We had Yaradua, who's also way into his 50s. We had Baba Buhari, who was, of course, way above a kid. Now we have another one who's way above 70. So put this in together. Why did he come out to state these things that he's saying? What import would it be? I know that when you are aging, maybe when you are getting close to your grave, you tend to try to correct some wrongs and try to tell the truth about certain things, because again, there's no truth to be told. I'm just thinking to myself, the damage that has been done to this nation when somebody of this character comes out to say these kinds of things at their old age. In your mind, you will say what you did was really wrong, what you did was really bad. You should be jailed, basically. By our standard, by the calculations, by every world standard, every sensible standard, this guy should be rotting in jail. That's the truth. But that's not to be. The man is still out and about, enjoying life, and even have the guts to come and tell us he did it. He did it. Imagine what Nigeria would have been in terms of democracy 32 years down the line. Imagine we were in that state, handed over to a democratically elected government, Abiola at the time, MKO, and continued that democratic process all the way till now. It would have been better, because again, that also filled the divisions that we're seeing today. Well, but like it to live it, he was Babangida, a northerner, thwarting a southerner's opportunity. That's what it viewed it. That is the reason, one of the reasons why ethnicity still prevails over common sense. That is why somebody would rather have a goat from the south than to have a human being from the north rule. It's just like what it is. As long as that goat from the south is my brother, and don't want to hear anybody from there, let that goat be the person to rule. Same and vice versa. People would rather support somebody because they are of religious inclination with you, because they are of your ethnicity, because they speak your language, because it's not like when he goes in there he would benefit you directly or you get something directly from them. But just because they speak your language, and maybe because they are from your end, from your side, you tend to blindly support them. So if there's someone who is a lot better coming on from the other end, because they're not from your side, no, just this person that is the goat, let the person go. You don't mind, as long as he's the goat. He's a cow or a rat, or a ram, let him be the one to go, continuously go for you. It is so saddening. It is so bad. That particular incident was part of the reasons why these divisions have continued. People still look back at history and point at these events and say they don't trust you. So everybody just stick to their own. That's why every election, people first of all look at the ethnicity of the persons who are coming for positions, not what they are capable of doing. It still played out in the 2023 elections. That particular ad of 2013 or 1993 still played out in the last election. So it will continue like this until we as collective people decide on our own to run away from ethnicity, to run away from tribal sentiment, and to look at issues the way they are. I've seen Peter Obi's reactions about the IBB's comment. He says that people should be recognized. People who won elections should be recognized. He's hoping that he gets to a point in our life, we'll get to a point where people who actually won election will be pronounced as people who won that election. Because once you are not transparent about issues in governance, especially as it concerns elections, you lose credibility totally. I mean, 2023 elections showed us, if not for anything, everybody, more people start thinking that INEC wasn't credible because of how they managed that presidential election. But that's the truth. It played out. Everybody now start thinking INEC is not credible after all. After singing to a song to everybody that you're going to be using IRF is what you're going to use to copulate all of the result. All of a sudden, IRF didn't work on the day of the election, on presidential day of the, and not even that it did not work. It worked, but it did not work for presidential election. It worked for other House of Reps, House of Rep positions and Senate positions. It worked, but it did not work for a presidential election. Why? If there was no predetermined position to do something sinister, why didn't that election cancelled or postponed? If there was a glitch, then postpone it by 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and redo that election and let it be transparent and let people see it real time. Look at South Africa. Look at Ghana. As you are voting, they are seeing it on the dashboard. The states, the constituency, people who voted, and and people who they voted. You cannot rig. It's clear. But our own is still open to manipulation because we're a country of fraudulent people who have refused to do the right thing at the right time. So you can't really blame people when they see these things, these activities. Who looks up to INEC anymore? Before the 2023 elections, there were huge